I don't
Well, I
think
don't
there's
think so. I
any.
think you just
No, no,
read
no.
the headline,
If you want to accuse me of not
right?
reading enough, using it in densely populated
Yeah,
areas where it inevitably will hit residential areas is a war
yeah.
crime, and that's what they're doing.
But they're not using it in densely populated areas. I saw this. You
They
look at
used it in
some
Gaza
of the
City. What are
areas.
you talking about?
You
They
look
used
at
it in
some of the
Gaza
areas.
City.
Wait a moment. You look at some of the areas where they're using this white
They used it in
phosphorus,
Gaza City.
and it's in isolated compounds and whatnot, right? It's not in
There's
cities
also
and the
not a
city
single
center,
place in
right?
Gaza that you
So
could use white phosphorus according to the
so
regulations set out. Not a single place in Gaza is free from the fallout of white phosphorus.
But Israel was attacked, and now you're saying that they're
Doesn't
committing
wait,
this
Munger?
against
Can you
this.
please
This is
pretend
the
at least to
worst.
be good faith for 2 seconds?
Will, no, no, no. I am being good faith. You're the one who's being.
Okay, then let's stay on topic for a second. There is not
This
a single
this
place in
is the
Gaza that you can
worst
use white
attack
phosphorus
on
according to the
Jews.
international laws.
This is the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. And instead of taking a very strong stance against these people, these terrorists, you continue to really tell us
What
all
have I
their
said about
propaganda.
Hamas?
This is the propaganda they use. Oh, IDF is heinous. IDF is this and that.
Munger, okay, you're just gonna get kicked if you're unwilling to have a discussion.
I don't think you're willing to have any
Did you
discussion
hear the
because you're
question that
denying
I
the facts
asked?
here, right?
Did you hear the question that I asked?
I heard your question, yes, right? And
Okay,
so,
then let's act as if you heard it.
so, but you're not addressing any of my points. Not a single point of mine are you addressing.
Answer my question first.
What's your question, Will?
So you didn't hear it.
What's your question, Will? What is it?
Okay, Miss Munger. It's been slightly tolerable speaking to you. Thank you so much for everyone sharing it. I want to get more eyes and ears on this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I might need to stop for water for 2 seconds. Did I bring my water bottle in here? Anyway. Give me 2 seconds, everyone. 2 seconds, everyone. I'm gonna run. There we are. Philly's not connecting. That's the Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hello. I just want to say, I listened to you before this, and you are like one-sided, man. You're like biased, one-sided, and you're not really having a true dialogue with people.
Well, they're not interested in having a dialogue, are you?
I said what I got to say. I mean, you can
Okay,
listen
you're
to
not
me.
welcome on this live. See how that works?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Actually, Lakewood.
Doing well. What?
I want to thank you for what you're saying,
Thank you.
and just want to say thank you, and I support what you're doing. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hi.
Hello.
So what's the question? It's just
How old are you?
I'm 17.
Okay. The IDF is the Israeli Defense Fund.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. So I've been listening into the live a little bit, and I understand with what you're saying and your concerns about Israel being forceful. And I just want to hear your opinion on Hamas's take on this. What is Hamas as their government thinking about Israel attacking in these areas?
What's the question?
Hamas, what is their mental state as the government of Palestine? in the
I
Gaza
mean,
Strip.
they're not a functional government of Palestine, right? They're a governing body within Palestine in some cases. But
I
what's their
completely
mental
agree with.
state? Bad. I don't support Hamas.
No, absolutely. So, in my personal opinion, through what I've been seeing, Hamas is hiding in these places and he is organizing in populated areas. So in turn, more casualties are coming from Israel's side. I really believe that it's not intentional and that it's being forced to be this way. Israel
I
takes.
disagree. It's forced.
All right,
Also,
so
it is intentional when they know that children are going to die, and then they do it anyway. It's intentional. It doesn't matter if they feel like they have to kill those children.
do you think any of that blame is on Hamas building his operations in those
Absolutely.
places?
Absolutely.
So if Hamas continues,
But also part of the blame that goes to Hamas goes to Israel because Israel funded Hamas in its beginning.
Hamas as an organization is sending attacks on Israel, correct?
Yes, and Israel as a government, as an actually contiguous organization, funded Hamas when it was before in the 80s and 90s.
Okay, and I believe that if we go into history, there's a lot of arguments we could take, and I'm open to having them. But in this situation, just what the point I'm trying to make is that if Israel doesn't respond to where Hamas is located, they're going to continue to get hit. Regardless of the situation before that we can continue to argue about, they're hitting civilians. And Israel just
about
wants
immediate,
to target Hamas.
well, I disagree with that, considering the violence in the West Bank. So no, they don't just want to target Hamas. They instigate and consistently incorporate violence into how they run all Palestinian areas that they have control over. But second of all, I think Hamas uses citizens as excuses to condemn Israel. But I think equally Israel uses Hamas as an excuse to hit citizens, and they've shown their propensity to do this consistently. In their usage of things like white phosphorus, which are not necessary to eliminate Hamas. And also, Hamas leaders live in Qatar. Are we all forgetting this? Well-known leaders of Hamas live in Qatar.
So the places that Israel's been attacking, no Hamas leaders are located at.
No. But my point is Hamas doesn't go away if Gaza does. Right? 2 million innocent lives, by and large innocent lives, go away if Gaza does. Hamas doesn't. And terrorism against Israel doesn't.
I am completely.
What does happen is that a whole entire generation of Arabs have yet another massacre to point to for Israel to demonize it, and justly so demonize the state of Israel when they kill their Arab brothers and sisters.
As you say, the majority of people in Palestine are innocent. The majority of people in Israel are innocent.
No, I know. I'm talking about the state of Israel.
Right.
Very important about that. And they're justly demonizing the state of Israel. The state of Israel is
targeting these. Hamas isn't targeting the IDF. He's targeting a festival where there was thousands.
But here's my question.
Yeah.
So all people from 18 to 26 in Israel, right, are either active or inactive members of the IDF. That means that there is IDF operatives in literally every single area within Israel. If the same was true in Gaza, would that justify bombing literally everywhere in Gaza?
But you don't see. I don't think you get the point that I'm trying to make.
No. Because I'd love an answer to that question. Where is the line?
In terms of what you're trying to make the claim that just because they're 18, they're fully sold on this belief that all people in Gaza should be dead. That's not true.
No. What I'm saying is if we applied your justification fairly, there were military operatives in this area, then all of Israel would be fair game.
But do you see the mindset of these people who are...
Do you see the mindset of you? When you're justifying the killing of civilians on the basis of military operatives being around them?
I am justifying for peace.
What are you, though? Is the actions of Israel towards peace?
Is the actions of Hamas towards peace?
No. That's why I don't support Hamas. Do you support Israel?
I support Israel's right to being safe and secure.
Is Israel
I believe
acting
that-
even in its own national self-interest? Do you believe genuinely that their actions will reduce terrorism in the area, stabilize the area? Because even they don't believe that it'll stabilize the area.
I believe that if Hamas puts their guns down, there will be no more war.
No more war.
Yes.
Really? So you don't think that their actions just now have enraged Hezbollah in Lebanon, have further pushed Iran against them, have possibly led to Saudi Arabia stopping the normalization deal that was going through relatively clearly for them?
Okay, so what would you do if you were in
No,
charge?
but this is the classic thing. We know that Israel is not acting just for national self-interest. We know that they fear, much more than anything else, a stable Gaza Strip and a stable West Bank. We know that that's what they fear more. That's why they consistently riot against it.
So that
What would
helps
I
you
do?
justify
What would
Hamas.
I do? As if I had the American power, if I had the American money, I would use all
No, as
diplomatic
Israel.
ties we can as Israel.
As Israel, how
I'd
would
first
you
not
not?
commit war crimes. And then I would liaise with Arab nations to take control of the Gaza Strip in good faith and the West Bank in good faith. I would give concessions that I conceivably could to keep my people safe from those Arab states while stabilizing the regions around them if I was acting in good faith. I would liaise with America and the European countries that they were exodus from and refugees from coming to Israel to allow a return of the European and American Jews to Europe and America to protect them as well.
So Jerusalem goes back to being Palestine in
Is
your.
that what I said, Adam?
It seems like it.
Well,
when you
let's
talk-
be honest about what I said. Is that what I said, Adam?
That's what it sounded like.
That's what you want it to sound like. Jerusalem, from my view, if I was Israel, once again, one of the most powerful military states in the area, I would liaise with the Arab states and the Western states to hopefully establish a good faith international area between them. Once again, making the relevant concessions to make that possible.
Going back to your original claim, Israel needs to protect its people. Hamas.
So you have no response to that.
I don't know what you want me to say towards that.
So why did you ask the question?
Well, my point is, in my personal belief,
I want an answer to that. Adam, why did you ask the question?
I asked you that question is because there's no other way for Israel to respond if Hamas is.
So then prove to me that the
populated
suggestion I just made is less effective than yours, which is mass carpet bombing of a primarily civilian area. How does starving 2 million people save more lives? Because I personally don't. Here's my thing. Here's maybe where you and I differ. I don't value Israeli lives more than Palestinian lives.
Nobody.
I value them equally. So if we're living in this fantasy world where I can run a country, I'm going to value all lives equally, and it's clear that starving 2 million people won't do that.
He started it. He's coming into our territory.
Who started it?
Hamas. Hamas
started it. Hamas, which was funded by Israel, started it.
You keep going back to that. I'm talking about what's happening.
So do you know about that? So let's talk about who started it, though.
What's going on right now?
How far do we want to go back to it being started?
We can go back all the way to the Ottoman Empire that was siding with Germany. I don't know what your claim against that is.
I know. So what do you mean he started it? This conflict has been going on for quite a while. Did anyone really start it? I don't know. Maybe the occupant colonial Israelis started it. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the consistent ethno-national genocidal interests of the current Israeli government started it. Maybe them denying that the Arab brother and sisters from the Nakba return started it. What violence do you want to talk about starting it?
So how do we get to peace?
I've explained it to you. I'd love an actual discussion about my suggestions. They need workshopping. I don't disagree, right? But if you listen to what I said, that's why I asked you if you had a response, because you asked a question and then you ignored the answer unilaterally. I thought it was a pretty well thought through answer, right? I'd love to hear your well thought through response.
It still sounds like justification.
In what world? Explain it. Tell me what I said, and then how that was justification.
Hamas, as an organization, won't stop. You think it's over land.
Tell me take what I said. Say, you said this. That sounds like justification for this.
Attacked. Israel's going to continue to be attacked.
Tell me what I said and how that sounds like justification.
Your end goal is that they're going to be having more land. I agree that everybody in Gaza, we got to do the best of what we could do. But again, if Hamas is hiding in there, we have to get rid of Hamas.
Is that correct or wrong? In terms of the fewest casualties,
here's where we disagree.
Do you believe that the Israelis would be better at getting rid of Hamas, or the Qataris? The Qataris.
Here's where we disagree.
Who do you think would be better to engage with that diplomatically?
Here's where we disagree. You believe that if you agree to what Hamas is offering and you give them more land, everything will...
No, I don't think we liaise with Hamas. Was that my suggestion? Don't know where he went. I didn't kick him. Probably should have, though. Thank you so much for everyone sending likes, sharing it, etc. Thank you so much. Everyone sending gifts that boost the lives as well. Sharing it with people.
Hello?
This is what's important. Hello.
Hello. Yes. I was wondering, first of all, I hate these people dying things. Palestinians, Israelis, Ukrainians, Russians, whatever. The human side of everybody should be a normal thing, to not even choose one side, but just, humanity as a whole should. But we should look at the causes, not who started this, who started that. What is the deep cause? Do you know what is the similarity of Hamas?
The source can give me.
I wasn't going to go anywhere.
What's up, dude?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. Okay. I was hearing some of your previous conversations. I don't know where you want to start, but let's start with the history of Israel. I think that I think one of the conversations you had before you left was who started it, right? I think what people the narrative that I hear, and this is wholeheartedly incorrect, is that the Israeli settlers came in much like how the Europeans came to America and they treated the Arab population like how Americans treated the Native Americans.
Oh, no, I would never make that analog.
Okay, good. Right, because in the 1948 partition plan...
Oh, no, I know the history. Wait, do you have a question as to what I might misunderstand?
Okay, sure. Do you think that the Arabs started the conflict with the Jews, or do you think the Israeli side did?
I'd say if anyone it's hard to say who started the conflict. I don't think it was the Jews or Arabs, right? We could talk about the actions of the fundamentally colonial Europeans affecting this, right? But the conflict is quite complex. Jews and Arabs have been living there for quite a while. But maybe the British started it, but I don't know. It's been going on for quite a while. There's been violence in this area for a very long time.
Sure. But I think that the antagonism towards the Israeli government is rooted in not only in anti-Semitism, but a xenophobia and anti-Semitism. They didn't want Jews to settle in the area. Jews just wanted to come as immigrants, right? And then once there was conflict the UN stepped in. There was a civil war, right?
The Zionists did not want just to come as immigrants. That's not true.
Yes. Okay. So the founder of Zionism, what's his name? He's very famous. His name's hard to pronounce, so I have to Google it.
So just to be clear, once again, I want to make clear my distinction there. There are Jews that came to Israel that wanted to come as immigrants. And then there is the Zionist movement that constitutes the vast majority of funding and motive to move to Israel. I don't want to conflate the two, Jews and Zionists, right? But fundamentally, the vast majority of Jews moving to Israel in certain times were either motivated by Zionism, funded by Zionism, or propagandized by Zionism. And it's just totally untrue to talk about this group of people as if they didn't want to found a theological ethno-state. That was the goal of Zionism. That was the reason they all moved there, right? Either directly or indirectly.
Okay, so very famously, in the modern Zionist movement, it was like in 1986, in the pamphlet, a very famous quote is, if we just had like a square inch or a square meter or whatever of Jerusalem, we would be happy, is I think a very famous quote by Theodor Herzl, who is the founder of the modern Zionist movement. The whole, I guess, if we're talking about it from a very historical perspective, right? Jews have been moving into this area over the course of thousands of years, right? For the idea of Zionism.
No, that's not really true. I mean, the bulk of that's not really true. The bulk of immigration, right, started in the 1880s. That's really when the Zionist movement had any traction.
There were waves in the 1700s. There were waves even as far back as 1200.
Yeah, but the relevant discussions here started.
Sure, because they finally had the capital. They finally developed enough political capital to get the British to assist them in that.
The British didn't assist them in 1880s, though.
No, of course not. But
what are you talking about? Are you talking about Balfour Declaration? What was that in the 30s then?
No, certainly after the Holocaust, they were able to.
Oh, okay. So we're talking in the 40s sometime.
Sure.
Okay, we're not going back hundreds of years because Zionism. So let's just be very specific.
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying that
you're not saying anything specific.
There's been waves of Zionist movements. We're talking about the bulk of it.
Really not relevant Zionist movements. It's not even really accurate to call them Zionist either.
What? No. Really?
Zionism references Zionism within this word clearly references quite specific social movements.
The word Zion is etymologically related to the word Jerusalem. So
etymology isn't relevant to the contextual meaning.
No. But it is, because that word of Zion
just not how words
has been used. Just because the word Zionism, obviously that word has been used, doesn't mean that the concept has existed for thousands of years.
No, I know, but the relevant Zionist movement, it's just productive to talk about the relevant Zionist movement starting in the 1880s or gaining traction in the 1880s, right? And then gaining even more power during the Holocaust and such things, due to extraordinary persecution of Jews.
Sure.
That's the relevant bit. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that Jews have lived there for a very long time. That's true. There have been indigenous Jews of that area for a very long time. There have been indigenous Arabs of that time for a very long time. So much so that they're both Semitic peoples, right? And they originally weren't really properly Arab or Jewish. They're just properly understood to be Semitic. So yeah, Jews and Arabs have lived there for a very long time.
Sure. But the desire and the notion to go back to that land has existed for thousands of years. Whether it was actualized,
that's true,
is a different story. So my point is, what I'm trying to get at is back to how this conflict started, is that there was a significant resistance against that. That's the first civil war that took place when the British occupied, it was the British mandate of Palestine. That civil war ended with the British leaving that region and the UN having control over it. The UN.
You're saying that that's the first relevant violence?
Yeah, in modern history, sure. I mean, unless you can point to something else.
I mean, wait. So that's not true. So, first of all, I would consider the British maintaining control of that colonially, right? And the split, the Sykes-Picot agreement is fundamentally violent in terms of the colonial ends of it, right?
Okay. Why did the British have it in the first
occupation is going to be fundamentally violent.
Why?
If you want to talk about hot violence, that's very specific. But the promise of an ethno-state is a violent promise, both to the Arabs and to the Jews. And equivalently, the Sykes-Picot agreement that then was actualized in that split implicitly required some violence into it. And then, we can talk even about the Jewish unionizing that actively and occasionally violently took land from the Arab people that had been working and living that land for, lots and lots of years. Sykes-Picot, sorry, might be. I don't have my.
Can you tell me about that? I'm not familiar with that phrase.
Right. So the Sykes-Picot agreement. Right, between the French and the British, splitting up the Middle East. We can look at the Sykes-Picot.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, is this where the British developed their occupation of? Is this after World War One, where after the Ottoman Empire collapsed?
It's following the Ottoman Empire, yeah.
Okay.
So they split up the Ottoman Empire.
Sure. Now, I'm not here to defend, like, obviously the British, like, you know, I'm not here to defend what the British did, but I mean, following World War One, this is what I mean. To me, to sort of moralize this is just like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel honest.
What am I doing? Wait. Are you suggesting I'm moralizing this?
I mean, yeah, you're saying that the first set of violence happened when, which is like, I mean, whether the British.
When did I say the first set of violence happened?
Didn't you say that the splitting up of the Middle East and specifically talking about how the British?
No. I was saying the original discussion I was having with the other person is, well, it's not really relevant to say who started it, right? It's not very clear who started it, right? No one really started it. We're not the same people from 100 years ago, right? It's not. It doesn't really work that way. So no, yeah, that was kind of my whole point.
You don't
is
think
this
it's the
idea
same
of
people?
who started it? It's. I mean, it's literally not the same person. I am not my father. I am not my grandfather.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to build up to something, and I don't think I'm capable of building up to it.
Then make your argument, right? I'd love to hear your argument.
Okay, sure.
And then we
and then if you find some flaws in the premises,
just make your tell me your thesis, right?
Sure.
And then we can have an argument about that thesis.
Great.
That's
great,
fine.
Great.
But working
I'm
around this obviously isn't working.
Sure. The point I'm trying to get at is just as people will contextualize Hamas's violence as, okay, it is rooted in decades of oppression. And I know that the Israeli government is not fully innocent in what they've done either. I know that. I think most Israelis still hopefully believe that too, or recognize that too. Just as that's the case, I think that the very right-wing factions that have developed in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and especially with Netanyahu, that emergence is also contextualized with a very, a reaction to very visceral anti-Semitism, grooming from the Nazis that took place that is marinated within much of the Palestinian leadership. And it's not just Hamas. Even the PLO had a lot of anti-Semitism and religious fundamentalism in it. And I think that two sides are becoming increasingly reactionary as a result of it. And I think that has to be acknowledged. I think that was the argument I wanted to make.
Yeah, they're both reactionary. Mm-hmm.
So we have two different reactionary groups, right? That are sort of.
That's why I don't trust either of them. Yeah, and that's why we shouldn't fund either of them.
Sure. What do you think is the consequence of the IDF being defunded by the U.S., which we would probably assume
until they stop committing war crimes,
like shutting down water systems, bombing hospitals, that kind of thing.
I mean, if you want to, are you just playing this because you want to debate about the hospital?
No, I'm curious. Yeah, well, sure, but I'm sure of like what. Yeah.
Okay, that's so disingenuous, bro. You know that. Like, come the fuck on. Like, actually get out. Like, are you shitting me? Come on. I thought you were trying to have a good discussion. That's so disingenuous.
Why do you think that's
it's such like you were attempting to bait me with like some news that is like there is reasonable debate about. If I hadn't talked to like 200 Zionists before you, right, maybe I would have fallen for it. It's so disingenuous to set that type of trap. Come on now.
You
can realize how fucking
whether it's
like,
the
that's
hospital.
So disingenuous.
Why is it? I don't get why it's disingenuous.
You know that you're such a liar. Oh God!
I didn't make a claim. What are you talking about? Along what?
I thought you were trying to debate. That's so annoying. No, the war crimes like the ones they've admitted, right? Like collective punishment.
I just said that the Israeli government isn't innocent. I've already said that. So what?
Yeah. So you know what war crimes I'm talking about. Cool.
So yeah, I already said that the Israeli government.
So the ends of those.
Okay. Okay. And do you think that if that happens, do you think that the Hamas would not be empowered to commit more? Would it empower Hamas to, sort of actualize violence or even more violence like the one we saw on October 7th?
I think their actions right now are putting Israeli citizens at more risk. But I think it's incredibly, I don't know, myopic, ethnocentric to only consider Israelis. But even if we only do care about Israeli lives, it's really, really obvious that what they're doing right now is putting Israeli lives at more of a risk.
Yeah,
to
so
something like
I do put more
escalation with
value.
Hezbollah. You put more value at Israeli citizens than Palestinian citizens?
Considering that like the vast majority of the Jewish population lives there, like if Israel collapses by any means, I think the entire Jewish population is at significant risk of being extinct.
You value Israeli lives more than Palestinian lives. You just said that.
No. I value protecting the state of Israel, not about lives. I support human rights.
So if we have
in
an
general.
action that puts Palestinian citizen lives at a higher risk, right, at cost of securing more Israeli or less Israeli lives, do you think that that's worth it? Or do you think that we should value all citizens equally?
I know I value all citizen lives equally.
Okay,
yeah.
then that's
But
what
I support
we're
the
saying.
Israeli
Cool.
state. I didn't say lives. I didn't say I value.
But I
Israeli
did.
lives.
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
So it's very clear, first of all, that this is endangering Israeli citizens much more, right? At risk of escalation with Hezbollah, at risk of increased funding from Arab nations, at risk of destabilizing, right, the IDF and exposing weaknesses of the IDF. All of those things are currently happening at risk of losing international funding from the West, for example, right? So what they're doing right now isn't actually saving Israeli lives more. I think that's really clear. So what should they do if we only value Israeli lives even? To protect Israeli lives, we should de-escalate. But they're not actually interested. So why are they not de-escalating? Because they're not interested in de-escalating, because that gives
I think their goal is
Zionist
to
goals.
Their goal is to, well, again, never at the expense of Palestinian lives. Again, my heart goes out to innocents that are harmed in the bombings that are currently taking place, that have historically taken place. But I think that if the rationale of the IDF is to eliminate critical infrastructure of Hamas in order to prevent a future terrorist attack, like we saw.
Yeah, but it's not going to work. They're making the terrorism worse, and they know it.
In what I mean, in the sense that you just said it, but honestly, I didn't hear it. But in the sense that they're radicalizing Palestinians more.
They're radicalizing those children that they're bombing. They're aggravating Hezbollah further, and giving Hezbollah a good reason to go turn around, go to Iran, turn around, go to Iraq, turn around, go to Jordan, go to Qatar, ask for funding, ask for support, right? They're giving them reasons to go and get this international support, and they're putting their international risks at risk. And further, right, that region isn't going to go to Israel. The international community won't let it. So what they're going to do is bomb it, get rid of any institutions that were made, right? Which, let's talk Hamas. Hamas did create institutions within Gaza. That's what they did, which stopped other terror groups from developing power and engaging with that. That's how institutions work. They've gotten rid of those, which that's fine, right? Like, get rid of horrendous institutions such as Hamas. But let's talk about the reality of this. Is this going to leave a complete power vacuum to one of the most brutalized peoples in the world? Okay? That's going to cause more terror. That's going to cause more violence. They know this. Israel isn't stupid, right? What I'm saying is it's clear when you look at the actions of Israel, they're not trying to stabilize this region. They're not even trying to do what protects them the most. They're trying to justify further and further and further atrocity against Palestinians because they want more power and control in the land, which they're getting. It works.
Okay, so I think the first premise I disagree with is how the international community is not going to let West Bank get annexed. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to annex more of
the West Bank or Gaza. Oh no, yeah, no. So I agree.
Sorry,
the West Bank.
Yeah.
The West Bank.
Gaza.
West Bank. They're about half annexed anyway. We'll see what happens to Gaza. I see it pretty unlikely that there will be a direct annexation. We might see a West Bank type thing.
Well, we already see settlers in these areas, and both in West Bank and Gaza, we see settlers that are there. It's already been a long-term project.
You don't really see settlers in Gaza.
you do see settlers. You see it in both. Obviously, West Bank is a far more aggressive settler project, or if you want to call it a settler project.
Just closer and closer to Gaza, because when Israeli citizens go into Gaza, they lose citizenship. You used to see settlers in Gaza, but then they pulled out unilaterally.
So
in 2005.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. So what do you think Israel's end game with Gaza is? Is it to kill? Is it just because they
I
see
think it's really interested. I think the concept of end game doesn't really make sense in terms of foreign policy. Let's talk about their motives. I think that's much more interesting.
Sounds good.
I think it's really clear they're motivated in keeping a destabilized Palestinian state. I think that's first step. Mm-hmm. They're motivated in keeping a destabilized Palestinian state because that gives them justification, right, for brutalizing Palestinians, maintaining an apartheid state. I think that's clear, right? They want when they can point to Gaza and say, "Look at this terrorist state of Palestinians." Oh, now the Palestinians in my state, I don't have to treat them as well. Oh, the Palestinians in the West Bank, I don't have to treat them as well. Maybe I can deny them rights to return. Maybe I can deny them rights to even travel. Right, so they can continue to get the Arabs that are currently in their land out, deny them further and further rights, increase Jewish control within there, or Zionist control within there. That's what I view as the primary motive. What actually happens to the Gaza Strip, I don't think they really care. Right, if it becomes part of Egypt, okay. If it becomes part of Jordan, okay. Right, like I don't think they really care. Beyond continuing to use it as a scapegoat, right, to demonize and attack Arab people.
Okay, look, well, I'm going to hold that, and we'll see if that's a long term, if that's the case. One thing I did appreciate from you in this conversation is that I think you acknowledge that there's a reaction on both sides. It has nothing less to do with the argument that you've made. It is really concerning to see the amount of, you saw the protests in Australia. There's so many. I think there's a Stop Anti-Semitism little page that kind of looks at, it posts online both on the far left and the far right. I don't even call them far left. To me, if you're that reactionary, you're as much of you're a fascist. But the people who have said oh, this is why a mustache man got rid of them, so on and so forth. And so, those things are concerning. And I think it gives me pause, who's historically supported the Palestinian movement. I still do. I support the people and human rights. I think that part of my heart's still there. But when I see that, people in the West who are invoking, swastika-esque language in this conflict, it makes me it forces me to re-examine the issue. And
but don't you think that the Islamophobia and anti-Arab sentiment that we're seeing would have an equivalent effect for anyone who was considering supporting Israel or any of their actions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, but if you're on and you actually observe the conversations that are taking place, Jews are not pushing, I've had a chance to sit in. Look, as an Indian or whatever, there's a ton of people who are from my land who do invoke Islamophobia. And I think it's fucking weird. I think it's gross. When Jews are coming in, they're like, no, we worship the same God. We're Abrahamic religions. We're cousins. I don't think Jews, for the most part, invoke Islamophobia when it comes to those things. There's some concern.
You don't think that the Israeli state is kind of actively pushing demonization and animalization of the Arabs when they call them animals?
So, in that sense, I don't think that's rooted in Islamophobia. I think it's just I think it's just making people scared of the.
It's fundamentally racist.
It could have been enemy.
But it's fun.
Sure, but that racism is not. Yeah,
that's why I call them anti-Arab sentiment. So I said Islamophobia and anti-Arab sentiment.
Yeah, no. But
which leads to brutalization of Arabs within other countries, right?
Anti-Arab. I would agree, but it's the Israeli government.
But they're pretty closely tied. If you ask the average citizen, I'm not suggesting they should be, right? But they have to do with each other. When you talk about British politics, for example, right? Talking about Arabs and talking about Muslims, to most British people, it's going to be a very similar conversation. You have to recognize that anti-Arab sentiment leaks into Islamophobia, leaks into those discussions. These things have to
If
do with
someone
each other.
in chat can show me any instances in which like Israeli leadership or Israeli influencers or political influencers are pushing blatant Islamophobic propaganda, then I would love to see it. What I've observed, and even within Israel's government, they seem to be very, very supportive, if not, tolerant of Islam, of Muslims, of the religion. I think anti-Arab sentiment, totally agree. Would they
Absolutely.
demonize?
Well, yeah, if it's racism, but comparing, if we want to do a racism anti-Semitism big dick contest, I think the best thing we can do is
but it's
horrendous.
different. No. But anti-Semitism is far more. Like it has a far more depth to it. It's easy to just be like, oh, the
This
Arabs.
is why
they
I
speak a
don't
different
think
language.
that we should play a big dick contest, because I don't think we want to put prejudice against prejudice and be like, well, which one's worse? I think racism has pretty strong roots as well.
But no. This is not. See, now this is dishonest, because it means something. Anti-Semitism is like, I don't like Jews because I don't like Jews. There's a whole lore to anti-Semitism is far more complex in its nature, and it has to be
Than
recognized.
racism.
Yes. Come on,
Racism
dude.
is quite complex as well.
No, racism, it depends on the race and how we understand it. Most of it is just sort of very barbaric demonization. Listen, the ways historically in which Jews have been seen as bankers, as controlling, the word cabal itself comes from is a Jewish term, right? It's a very, very specific type of racism, which is that they're powerful and conniving and control
I agree that it's
large
a
swaths of the
specific type
government.
of racism, but I don't think that you can just tell me that it's worse or more important, or like somehow like this is what I call.
Well, I'm not. I don't know about worse. It's not. That's not my point. My point is it has to be
More
recognized
important?
as a very specific and different type of racism.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
The anti-Arab racism is very generic. It's very synonymous with anti-black racism.
But that's calling them animals is quite specific. Like it has a really long history as well in terms of caricature. I think lots of things are complex. But even if it was equally complex, like who cares? This is why the big dick contest just like is a dumb game. We can say racism, bad. Anti-Semitism, bad. I condemn the actions and rhetoric, right, coming out of anyone discussing this issue, right, regarding it. That's why I condemn the Israeli officials that have engaged in it. That's why I condemn the Palestinian protests that have engaged in it. I think the vast majority of Palestinian protests, I think, as you know, if you're going to be honest recognizing it, are not engaging in it. We all know that. Right. But of course, right, anti-Semitism only hurts the movement, and so does Islamophobia, right? And so does anti-Arab racism. Right? All of these things hurt all their movements.
Okay, so I disagree with this, because when you intellectualize when anti-Semitism, when you recognize it as, okay, Jews are powerful and all the tropes that come with anti-Semitism that historically existed even before the 1930s German Party, like all of these because of that, you can see how a lot of systems and institutions, and I know this, and you know this as a socialist, that socialism, right, it looks at how institutions of power, and class conflict, right, and how the institutions of power will promote like the interests of the Pacific class. That idea is rooted in leftist intellectualism. When you conflate that with the existing, with the existing tropes of the Jewish population, you find a very, very sinister marriage between them. And this is what I'm seeing. When you see like DSA say that, like what happened, like the DSA march, where a very famous leader
You don't
said
think
that, like,
that equally interesting analysis can be done on racial bias?
It could be, but like, I'm trying to be specific with it. Don't just exist in theory. Like, I'm being very specific.
Sammy, I understand, but this is useless.
Why? No,
because
it's not.
Like racism has, and will exist within leftist ideology as well. And there's complicated relationships between all these concepts. Okay, but Sammy, to pretend as if, right, the Israeli, let's talk about scale here for a second. The Israeli ministers engaging in flagrantly racist and xenophobic things. To talk about actions of individual protesters in terms of scale.
That's
It's
not
totally
DSA is
something
not an individual protester. DSA is the
But the
largest
DSA isn't
socialist
active.
organization.
The DSA is not engaging in anti-Semitism in their actions regarding it. You can accuse
I would
all
disagree.
leftists.
I would agree. I think they dog whistle
and
very
you can
heavily.
disagree. You can disagree, Sammy. If you want to say that the people that are engaging in any leftist ideology are engaging in anti-Semitism, that's fine for you, Sammy. You know that that's
Wait,
not
why are
true.
you doing? No, why did you just straw man my position? I didn't say that. It says that I said that leftist ideology and the notion that they argue, especially socialism's fundamental argument, especially in the context of America or global capitalism, is that there exists a specific class that works to works to the economic and political interest of a particular bourgeois class. When that gets if when you
Yeah,
that
that's
can
the
easily be
fundamental
conflated.
maxim of Marxism.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So are
And
you accusing all people
unfortunately,
that hold Marxism to be anti-Semitic?
no, that's not what you're doing. I don't know if you're
Then
doing this on
talk about
purpose. No, I'm
specific
saying.
actions by specific organizations. What
Of
specifically
course,
did
these
DSA
are
say?
okay. Yeah. No, they did, right? They did say so. Leaders have specifically drawn that into Jewish. Not all of them, but then
What have
once you
they
create that,
said?
yeah. So, they said, what is it? That leader said at UPenn that there are no innocent Israelis, and that these people are like they manipulated a political system as settlers to come into the region, and that is an active provocation of war. Therefore, all means necessary for the liberation of Palestinians. Something to that effect. He got blasted on the internet for it. Right? That is a DSA leader.
It sounds
was a protest.
exponentially more anti-colonial.
No, but it's rooted. It's not anti. It is, of course, the language.
I mean,
This is the problem.
that's
It's
why
a
and
dog
what they
whistle.
said that. I don't. Well,
It's a dog
I
whistle.
disagree. So they say the same thing about colonial movements all the time, right? I disagree with that type of language, obviously, right? But I don't think it's unique of Israel. They make the exact same context, right, with other colonial projects that have engaged in it. When we talk about something like French Guiana, or when we're talking about freedom, I don't know what are the French islands within there. I don't know. We can talk about specific Israel, specific colonial projects. They say the exact same thing. They just simply say that colonialism is an act and provocation of violence, which colonialism is, right? And I would consider an active settler of Israel, right, to be engaging in provocation, right? That doesn't mean that the children who are Israeli are
Or no, how about any
right?
citizen?
But the settlers.
Or literally any citizen of Israel. We don't just limit to children. And
wait, I don't think they
more
consider the
importantly-
Arab citizens of Israel to be, or like the non-settler status of Israel to be.
Arabs have been killed.
provoking.
Israelis were killed in the Hamas attack. So aren't they? Yeah. So of course, if Hamas is targeting Arabs as well, and who live in Israel as Israeli citizens.
Wait, Sammy, connect that to what we were just saying.
Well, you said it's not just about it's not just Israeli citizens. There are Arabs in Israel. You acknowledge that there are Arabs in Israel, right? So Israeli citizens. We're talking about. Why did I just say that, dude? I'm tired now. But
I agree. Well, I think
Sure.
that might be the end of the discussion.
Sure.
Appreciate
No,
you
but
coming up, Sammy.
okay.
I'll move on to
But
someone
again,
else.
as long as you've acknowledged, like, I think it's okay to have these nuanced discussions as long as we're acknowledging that. I think it's not as simplistic as a one-sided discussion. I think there's reactions on both sides, and I think overall,
I don't think a
human
single
rights-
human in this world thinks it's simplistic, and that it's not reactionary.
No,
on
but
both
narratives
sides.
are
But
often oversimplified, and that's important. That things are often oversimplified.
that's the internet. Narratives about everything are oversimplified. I think we all know
but it's
that.
important that we don't.
Anyway.
That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Peace out.
All right. Peace out.
Reserve for 19 years, 7 years as an active officer. I have a lot of things to talk with you. It seems very interesting. I'm really curious about this obsession with the Palestinian. So maybe you can shed some light with me about why you want to, I don't know, end us. Out of what?
Did I say I wanted to end you? What do you mean?
Yeah, if we don't have the IDF, we will all be gone.
Did I say that the IDF shouldn't exist?
You say defund what? It's like a part of it. What do you say? Defund all U.S.
So
military funding
if we're
of the
gonna have this
IDF?
discussion, Amir, which I would love to, you seem like a person very relevant to this discussion. How we're
Put
going
me
to
just in
have this
context.
how we're going to have this discussion is honestly.
All right, my friend. I'm
So
honest.
let's start honestly, because you didn't.
Okay.
Did I say that the IDF shouldn't exist?
I don't understand what you said before, so let's do a restart. I'm sorry for being wrong. Go ahead, explain me your views, and start from there. I'm sorry.
That's my claim.
All right, go ahead, my
Until the
friend.
IDF stops committing war crimes, until the IDF recognizes and follows international law, America should not fund it.
Okay. Which, let's be specific. Which war crime are you referring currently?
There are vast plethora of war crimes. The consistent blockade of all humanitarian aid to them, that is a war crime. The use of white phosphorus in residential areas, that is a war crime. The killing of Red Cross agents that we have seen documented and of reporters, that is a war crime. All of those things should, I guess you just never active justification for their current blockade and indiscriminate bombing across Gaza on the basis of the actions of individual terrorist organizations within Gaza constitutes collective punishment, which is a war crime.
Okay. So you said a lot of points. So let's, I just, you're saying a lot of facts, seems like it. I just want to talk about the blockade part, right? You quoted the war crime, right? So again, according to the Fourth Geneva Convention, what we need to pass to our enemy during war is food, not specific which. Let's assume it's water and medical. We don't need to give fuel or electricity. You can look it up. If you will find in the Geneva Convention that we need to give electricity or fuel to the Gaza, as we did for the last 25 years. So I would say, yeah, it's a war crime to stop fuel and electricity to them, but they are currently at war. They decided to open a war against us, so we are not obligated.
So you're admitting that Israel but you are obligated during war. That's what it means.
No,
when it's a war
we
crime.
are obligated to give food and water. This is the
And
Geneva
are you
Convention.
stopping food?
No, we are not stopping food. We are not stopping
Netanyahu
food.
explicitly said it was a food, water, fuel blockade.
Currently, there is no food shortage. The water is being provided to the
They've cut off the water
non-combatant
supply.
area.
They cut off the food supply.
Again, you are talking misgenuine facts. The water supply is open to Rafiah, Mu'asi. We declare a humanitarian zone there. We are now finalizing with the Egyptian the process of
But Amir, the
sending
food
the
has
trucks
been
there.
blocked off. The food has been blocked. The food humanitarian aid has been blocked off. The PM said this. Netanyahu said this. It's been well reported and noted.
We want to talk about facts.
Biden called for the end of their food blockade. Are you calling Netanyahu and Biden a liar about their own policy?
I'm not calling anyone a liar. I'm just
Okay,
talking
but you
about
have
the
to be.
facts
You
that
have
I
to be.
know.
Okay, your
No,
facts are wrong.
you are not
Do you
putting
have a
words
single
in my
source?
mouth.
Do you have a okay? I asked a question, Amir. That's the
You
difference
attacked
between you
me
and I.
within like 30 seconds and you called me a liar. So what is the narrative you want to push? And
No, I didn't
go
attack you.
ahead.
You were a liar.
So am I
Do
a
you have
liar?
a single source?
What?
Do you have a single source as to it not being a food blockade?
Again, in time of war, right, there are the rule of conduct, and that's what we are
Do you have
following.
a single source regarding it not being a food blockade?
Currently, there is no food shortage in Gaza.
There doesn't have to be a food shortage for it to be a war crime to not provide.
Again, there is no active war crime going on.
There is in your blockade of food. Are you denying that it's a food blockade?
There is no food blockade. We are finalizing the part with
Okay,
the
so why did
Egyptian
Netanyahu
trucks.
say that why did Netanyahu say that it was a food blockade?
Again, what Netanyahu said in a certain time period of the first 5 days is not relevant for the current situation that we are
The first
staying
7
in.
days?
Now, the first 5 days and the water will open on the day 6. We are doing it
So
because
they
we want
committed a
to
war
drop.
crime within the first 5 days.
No, you cannot say a war crime because you want to say it. I want to say war crime because Hamas is shooting rockets on civilian population
Yeah,
or
that's a war
using
crime.
civilians as
That's
a
a war
human
crime as
shield.
well.
This is also a war crime. So again,
Yeah, correct. That is we can say though that is a war crime because it is. Great.
Of course,
I can also
but
be
again,
so here's the thing. I have the moral standing. I can say, "Hey, look, that's a war crime."
why do you have
And
the
then
moral
I can
standing
also say,
exactly?
"Hey, look, Israel committed a war crime."
Wait,
Crazy how
let's.
that works.
All right, you can say whatever you want, and
But that's what
you are right.
international law says. The UN has called it a war crime. The UN, the treaty organization, right, that constitutes and organizes the ICC, right,
Yeah.
and that Israel signed on to has called it a war crime. So Israel, by proxy of its treaty organization, has recognized it's a war crime. What they describe it as, it fulfills the requirements for a war crime. Where's the mistake here, Amir? I just want them to stop doing that.
I'm coming back to what I said. In the first 5 days, there was a blockade of food and water, and
Which is a
then we
war crime.
opened the water. Yeah, if you want to call it like that.
Okay,
then
so
on
do you
the
think they
first 5
should not
days,
commit war crimes?
I think that no one needs to open a war because war crimes only happen in war. So if there
Great.
is
So
a
do you
war,
believe?
it's
Do
horrible.
you believe that you should condemn Israel for that action?
No, I should not.
Okay,
Because
so
I
you
will
don't
tell you why.
condemn Israel for war crimes. Why do you support war crimes, Amir?
I support being alive and I don't want to do war. This war was forced upon us. No one opened a war on the 7th of October. We did not open a war. War was forced on us.
Wait, but
And
the
we
war
have
didn't start
horrible
according
results.
to anyone else on October 7th.
This
is an ongoing conflict.
Are you in any knowledge of the strategical and tactical knowledge of the Hamas, which is a police state?
I've done at least some research as to what Hamas has done in that day.
So, can you please define me what is Hamas as an entity?
Hamas is a pseudo-governmental organization within Gaza that provides a variety of pseudo-governmental services such as social support, including a military wing.
Can you please tell me who is the opposition for Hamas?
Well, it's the Fatah. Fatah, I don't remember how to pronounce it.
Yeah,
but it's what's formerly the
Fatah are
PLO.
alive in Gaza? Really? They're not. This is a police state. You are comparing a free state, which is Israel, to a police state with the morals of South Korea, or
how am I comparing
of
them?
North Korea.
I'm condemning
Because
them
you
both.
compare. No, you don't condemn. Listen, we are so sad, and we will do anything we can, even now, to save innocent life. But we are not equivalent on the moral level.
Did I say you were?
Any situation. No, I'm telling you we are not, because we are dealing.
But wait, why
with
is this relevant if I didn't say that you were?
Because if
you just want to lecture, like, did you run out of grandchildren to lecture? Like, what are you doing? This is irrelevant. I'm talk about things that are relevant to the discussion, bro.
No, if
I
you
never
want,
said
if you
that they
have
were
to do
morally
something,
equivalent. I don't think that they're morally equivalent, and I
No, but
especially
you have-
I especially think that, like, from an American perspective, they're not morally equivalent. Israel is our ally. Hamas has been our enemy. So when Israel commits a war crime, it's much more deserving of condemnation from America because we're supporting them. If it's my hand that hits something, I'm going to be much more angry at my hand than I will at someone else's hand. Do I understand how that works?
I understand, but again,
Exactly. So they're not morally equivalent. We should discuss the actions of Israel. We should be more scrutinizing of Israel than we are of any other organization that we don't fund to such a wide extent.
So you say that now, what should we do with this current situation?
what you should immediately end war crimes. That's a really simple answer, right?
All right.
And then Israel should take active good faith efforts to stabilize the region. And what does that look like? That doesn't look like carpet bombing Gaza.
You know, did you ever saw a carpet bombing?
If we want to go into, I don't know if I should talk about this one. Yes.
Did you ever saw it?
Yes,
Yeah?
I am well versed in carpet bombing. I come from a military family. They were active in Vietnam. They were active in Korea. I know about carpet bombings. And what we are seeing, over 6,000 bombs being dropped in a teeny area, right? If you talk to the Laos people, they're going to tell you, yeah, that looks damn well like carpet bombing.
This is not carpet bombing because we are not using carpet ammunition. That's number one. Carpet bombing is built of many small bombs. We're using rockets and bombs that are targeted on Hamas officials, all right, that are hiding behind civilians. Okay?
And hitting the civilians along the way.
No. If you want to talk about the military going against population, you can take examples from our small neighborhood in Jordan in the Black September. They took out 25,000 Palestinians in 3 days, with only 2 units. Now, we could have taken so much more. You think that if we really
I think you want plausible deniability.
For what? For what?
So
why do we need plausible?
To talk to the Americans who are funding you, to talk to the British who are funding you, to talk to the Europeans who are funding you. But you still want to
What is our GDP, my friend? What is our GDP? Do you really need your funds? We have higher GDP than Germany.
Amir, you're the one that came in here and said that I was advocating the crippling of the Israeli IDF. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Either you can't have your cake and eat it too.
A bad image, and the title is "Stop IDF until ADF are done." I don't know what it says, and your head is on it. So I told you, please explain your point. Now I'm asking you what to do. You tell me stop the war crimes. I agree with you. Even more.
You condemn the war crimes of the IDF.
What?
You condemn the war crimes of the IDF, like the blockade of food that, is still happening.
But we took care
you
of
at
it.
least admit happened.
I admit it happened for the first day.
So do you condemn those first few days of war crimes?
Yes, I condemn. But we are a nation of fuck up people with PTSD as a nation because they, I don't know.
Great. I'm glad
8
that we're
wars tried to kill us.
Do you condemn the usage of white phosphorus within the Gaza Strip?
No one used a phosphorus weapon in Gaza Strip.
I mean, that's just okay. If we just don't want to live in reality, Amir.
Again, you are not.
I mean, literally everyone has reported.
Whatever you are saying. Who?
Reuters, AP, Al Jazeera, even Israeli foreign officials admitted that they used white phosphorus. They just claimed that they didn't use it. What? The foreign minister.
The foreign minister tried it. Let me check.
Okay. But they just claimed that the white phosphorus was not used within residential areas, which is just nonsense, right? Nowhere in Gaza is it acceptable to use white phosphorus.
No, in white phosphorus, just to be accurate.
Go check, Amir. Go check, Amir.
You can use it. No, I checked.
Go check, Amir.
You can use it in 2 ways. You can use it in 2 ways. First,
I know, Amir. Can you go check it?
Illumination.
Are you currently looking it up?
No, I looked it up and I found it. Listen, you can use it in 2 ways. You can use it as an illumination bomb, and you can use it as an incinerator bomb, like napalm. I guess that you know that due to your military background. So the one that was used as to increase the light, because we did 3 operations to find bodies close to the fence.
Yeah. What's your source that you're reading?
My source that I'm reading. Internet in Hebrew.
Your source is internet?
My sources is the Hebrew data site. You can go to Haaretz, or this is the most left wing, I guess, that you will trust this more, but we compare multiple sites. Yes.
The source is internet? What you talking like Google? What are you reading?
Yeah.
What is the source that you are reading?
About the phosphorus using.
Yeah.
It's a website that is quoting Israeli website.
Can you give me the
war,
URL?
like here?
The thing at the top. Okay. Maybe this won't work, my loves.
Here, we can talk about it.
Do you know what a URL is?
You can look it up. Let me see if you have it in English. I can read it to you. ynet.co.il/news/articles/sgvdr0b11p and take it to your favorite ChatGPT.
Boo, my computer. Oh, I don't want to get up.
I can read it for you. Listen. The Hague internal steward Karim Khan told Reuters that the court have jurisdiction for potential war crimes done by Hamas terrorists in Israel, and he said that it's also relevant for Israeli in Gaza. Although Israel is not a member of the ICC, which is the
International Criminal Court.
International, and does not recognize this jurisdiction authority. Okay. Regarding
Are you reading off ChatGPT? Did I catch that right?
No, I told you because it's in Hebrew. If you want to translate it, then you can go there.
Oh, fair enough.
All right. Yeah. And two.
Oh no. Oh no, where did he go? Oh my. Where did he leave? Anyway, I'm gonna go to sleep. It's almost 3 o'clock where I am. Oh no. Wow. Crazy. Typically I'd like to stick around, I don't know, but I'm tired. And I've been on here for too long. Yeah. Love you all. You're very cool. You're all very cool. Thank you so much for everyone supporting. Also, TikTok does not like me. TikTok does not like me. So if you want to support me more, please do go follow my YouTube. The link is in my bio. Please do. I appreciate everyone who's following my YouTube. It allows me to, reach more people, get out there, and hopefully have a more stable platform. So, peace.
Allowed to intermarry.
Sure. But I'll tell you one thing. And when I said earlier about the culture, by the way, the word migrants and refugees, excuse me, obviously English, I'm not used to having these debates in English, and that's fine. I haven't meant to say migrants and not refugees. But to the point, you see, first of all, I appreciate you and thanks for being patient and everything. But culturally, when I said earlier about culturally that the West world is missing the point, I'm not talking only about Arabs, because I am an Arab as well. I am a Jew Arab. My grandparents are coming from Arab countries. Culturally, as much as I would like to be as Westerner as I think I am, I'm not. It's with the family, the way that the family is built, is with the amount of people that are in a family, the way we eat, the way we speak, the way we have debates. Culturally, we're different. I lived for 12 years, I lived in Australia, and the one thing that I missed the most is the lack of spontaneity that I had with people in Israel, I didn't have in Australia. So it's whether you like it or not, our culture is different to the Western world. Now, I lived in Australia for 12 years, and I haven't lost my Israeli senses, right? But it was important to me to be a part of the culture that I was in. I had Australian friends, and I respected the local laws, and I've done everything to be a good citizen within the country that I lived in.
I'm sorry, like this is, I'm going to... Relevance? Who cares?
What are we talking about? Different cultures exist. People of different cultures exist. No, like, yes, people of different cultures exist. Yes,
Absolutely.
people should respect each other's cultures. No, that's not like the question of whether we should be funding the genocide currently.
I'm a bit confused. Are you saying that people should be unalive because they have a different culture? Like, I'm very confused with this. And Europe itself, what is European culture?
Having a debate, Kimberly, I don't mind having a debate, but if you put words in my mouth, this is yours.
Okay,
no, that's what I'm asking.
It was a question. We don't know what you're saying.
You can ask, but you don't need to put words in my mouth because I don't appreciate
we're giving you
it. I've never said such a thing.
What's your point relevant to Israel?
My point, Will, is what I said earlier, that culturally the West can't understand the Middle East to 100%. You can't. You absolutely can't.
Okay,
You haven't been in our shoes,
right? People of primarily Western descent should leave there. I don't think that'll turn out very well for Israelis. Wonderful, right? Like, or the West should stop all preferential treatment of Israel, right? Great. Also won't turn out very well for Israel. I agree. We shouldn't be influencing this area. We should stay out of this area more, right? Cool, great. You agree with this proposition. You agree with the end of the preferential free trade agreements that Israel has. You agree with the end of the direct military integration that we have with Israel. If you want to plead ignorance, right, then we're going to be in agreement with a lot of the policies. We don't actually have a disagreement. That's why we're confused, right? It's because you're not saying anything that is relevant to this debate, because you and I agree.
Yeah, but really,
in that case,
so Ethiopian Jews also have a different culture.
But keep on going, and it's good that you're having this debate. I appreciate you and your time anyway, and have a good evening or a good day.
He didn't address any of my points. He just completely ignored.
We all knew he wasn't going to. Like, he had one thing to say.
Yeah, he just spread misinformation. And when people talk about culture, like if you actually come to Europe as well, European cultures are very, very distinct. They're very, very different. Like depending on what country you go to the Balkan, to Eastern Europe, to Western Europe as well. European cultures are different. There are different ethnicities, different religions that are represented within European culture as well. This idea that there is one Western culture within Europe is a very reductionist colonial perspective.
Absolutely. All right, let's let another person up.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Where'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
Well, what was that? Sorry?
What'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
I think like if addressing the question that you wrote, and more specifically what I heard you saying that you don't trust Israel and stuff like that. Well, I agree. Like I would not, as an Israeli, I think, yeah, if somebody's going to interfere with this situation, it should be an outer source that comes here to support the two-state solution. It can't be governed by any of us. It should be mediated by someone outside of this and help the Palestinians develop as much as they can in order for them to come to a state that they don't want to have any need for war, basically. But regarding the fact that why is the U.S. intervening, well, don't want to sound like conspiracy theories, but it's basically known that this is a proxy fight between Saudi Arabia, that is supported by the US, and Iran, which is supported by, let's call it, the axis of evil. Like, it's not that the US really cares about us as Israelis. I appreciate all the support we get, of course, but it's not like we're just like pawns in the bigger picture. So
I'd agree they're pawns in the bigger picture. You'd agree that we should end U.S. military funding for it?
If you end the funding, I think just more civilians and innocent people would be unalived on both sides. So it depends. Essentially, you can't, even if you agree, even if you think, and I heard your ideas, that we caused all of this, let's say you're right.
I didn't say you caused all of it.
You basically said genocide. In other words, like
I said a lot of things. I didn't say that you caused all of it.
Okay, so we have a situation now that is problematic. You can't expect a country that is run by 50-something% children, not run by, but is consistent of that, to have any capability of maintaining peace, even if you give them all the rights in the world. You have to.
Yeah, no, I know, I don't. That's why I advocate a trustee state.
So what do you propose, like the U.S. does?
So I propose America first use its power to get one of its largest allies, Israel, right, to stop committing war crimes and killing children. First step, right? That's going to save the most lives. The end of the immediate end of war crimes. That's really simple. Second of all, right, you need to engage with Arab countries, right, who can in good faith take control of Palestine.
But they don't want to.
I know. That's why we use, like, this is where America has power. Israel has shown time and time and time again they have no good intentions with Palestinians. Right. When they've been in charge of the West Bank, there has been mass brutalization of Palestinians within the West Bank. Right. When they were in charge of Gaza, it got so bad that they pulled out. When they pulled out, their foreign relations with Gaza got so bad that people were starving. Right. What we need is an Arab trustee state there. Right. So that's where America and people with power who have fucked up and gotten their power from colonialism I'm an American. All I can advocate is what America does, right? And I think we have a responsibility to start acting in good faith and liaise with people I advocate Qatar specifically. Qatar seems the best vote for me. You could work with Jordan, perhaps. You could work with Egypt, perhaps, because they both done it in the past. You put those three, we liaise with, see what we can do to get a trustee state to start building institutions in that area, right? And then we consistently keep pressure on Israel to stop destroying Palestinian institutions, right? This issue didn't come from nowhere. This issue came because people wanted this issue to exist, and how they made that issue exist, right, was by destroying Palestinian institutions.
What do you mean Palestinian institutions?
So they funded what eventually did become Hamas to be a counterweight to the PLO. The PLO was a Palestinian institution, not a good one, but better than Hamas. I think we can all agree on that. And they funded what eventually did become Hamas with the intention of destabilizing the PLO.
And the PLO still governs the Western Bank.
And it doesn't. Yeah, in Gaza. And it doesn't Gaza. Like, they were successful in destabilizing it in Gaza. And I'm talking about the primordial Hamas, right, within Gaza, which was funded by Israel.
No, okay, that's distorting the facts. Israel funded the jihadic Islam, which was hoping, foolishly, you could say, or innocently, I guess you're saying that it was intentionally. I would argue that it was foolishly and innocently, thinking if we give them a means to govern with what every country does as a police and help the jihadic Islam there, then that's what happened. And what happened is the Hamas was born out of that. We didn't fund or arrange any organization called Hamas and said, okay, we're going to give you money in order to.
Well, no, they knew their views. They were jihadists. They knew that they were anti-Semitic at the time as well. They knew their views. And we can talk about here's the thing. We can talk about whether it was reckless or is malicious. I think it was malicious, right?
Based on what? Wait, think, you can think in whatever you want. Based on what do you think it's malicious?
Well, based on them being some of the best trained tactical experts in the world, right? Based on them having any knowledge ever of what happens when you fund extremist groups. Based on, right, the far-right extremist government, at least within the past 10 years, literally saying that part of their strategy was to further destabilize Gaza, right? Netanyahu has said this. All I infer from that, right, is that the Israeli state now, and for a long time, including in that action, has been motivated to destabilize and consistently oppress the Palestinian people.
Oh. You're not giving any like room to breathe. You're just firing like accusations. And like if you skip from what you call fact to fact, doesn't make the other ones true. It's just I can't address all of them. That's an interesting tactic. But let's go back one by one to what you're saying, because you're firing a lot of things you say that are facts.
Well, yeah, so there's a lot of reasons that I think they're acting in bad faith. I can't prove that they were acting in bad faith, right? So what I'm going to point to is all the reasons that I don't trust them to act in good faith.
Okay, but you said, okay, let's just address one thing. The current government is one thing, but the government that was in charge of the Oslo Accords and was what you call supported the Hamas, was one of the most peace-seeking governments in the history of Israel. And from our side, and it's a shame to Israel, our president was unalived for that. Our president was unalived for trying to have peace. So you can say a lot of things about the current government, and I will probably agree with a lot of them.
No, I know, and the reason I pointed to the current government is because they have similar foreign policy interests as the old government. The old government just went about it in a different way, right? So when I talk about how, if the current government is being so mask off that they're admitting that they're trying to destabilize the region, right? Well, the former government and the one before that and the one before that had similar interests, and they probably had similar goals. They just probably had different rhetoric surrounding it.
What do you mean? Who tried to unstabilize the situation?
I mean, Bibi, Bibi literally said that he was trying to.
So we can go now into a back and forth, checking Google, whatever. We can do that, or we can go back to what you talked about with the solution. So the solution with Qatar, I don't think it's really realistic. They have an interest.
I think it's more realistic than carpet bombing children.
Carpet bombing is what was done. You're using two things, which, in my opinion, I think is very important to stop on for a second. First, you use genocide, which is the intentional purpose of unaliving people, intentional purpose of a certain culture or ethnic race, intentional, and it's not intentional. Okay.
It's intentional when you do something, you know the consequence of it, and you do it anyway. That's intentional. And when you fire bombs into residential areas, knowing it will kill people, that is intentional.
Okay. The intention is to destroy rocket launches area.
That's the goal. That's the stated reason, right? But intention moves beyond that.
Okay, so the intention is to stop them from rocketing. That's not unaliving. Carpet bombing is also something you used wrong. Carpet bombing, let's give an example. Britain used it on Dresden and Second World War. They would carpet bomb anything. If you would carpet bomb everything, you wouldn't have what is roughly...
we wanted to talk about genocide. You moved to another point. Let's talk about genocide. Let's talk about intention for a second, because also that's not the definition of genocide. The definition of genocide is that it includes killing members of a group, inflicting serious bodily harm and mental harm on members of a certain group to bring about physical destruction of that group in whole or in part.
What you're reading out doesn't have the word intention? Because Wikipedia, Google, whatever you write has the word intention. I'm just curious where you're reading that out.
I mean, from the Geneva Convention.
From the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, defines, so they do have intention, just not intention of killing. So it says acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group.
There's no intent
the
like
goal of the goal that Israel has shown consistently is they are attempting to destroy the Palestinian people, at least within their area.
No, we repeatedly show that we try to demolish the Hamas, not the people there. And
I know they're using Hamas as an excuse. That's my accusation.
What do you mean as an excuse? Listen, when America attacked Vietnam, they were using, I think, I guess if I was
when they attacked, let's take a better example. When they attacked Iraq, they were using the government as an excuse, right? They were using the weapons of mass destruction as an excuse, right, to invade Iraq to gain oil resources. That's a classic example. Yes, we use extremist groups as excuses to engage in tactical wars. And we know that the West does this. There's no reason that Israel doesn't.
This is the analog.
Stop believing their lies.
Let's go back. That's what you chose. I'm not going to argue with you about Iraq. I'm talking about Vietnam. They use guerrilla tactics. So that's what's being used in Gaza region. They're using guerrilla tactics.
No.
And
I pointed to Iraq to point out, like, basically my argument is that they're using an extremist group, which is admittedly despicable, to rhetorically justify genocide, which is what's happening.
okay, so if you do you think that the intention of the Israeli people, including our government, is like in their hearts, you believe that they wish to unalive a certain group called the Palestinians? That's what you think?
I think they do not want Palestinians in their area.
No, but you said, like, you talked about Gino, and you're saying
genocide includes mass displacement.
Oh, now you're going to mass displacement. So I'm talking.
No, that's part of genocide. That's one of the things that can qualify under the UN definition of genocide. So yeah, I think they're attempting to, through a series of means, displace or unalive mass amounts. Yes, absolutely, you can, Athena. Mass amounts of Palestinians.
Yeah, but also when you look at the whole Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, right? It does also say deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part. So how Gazans are treated in general with regard to the measures, with regard to control over basic resources like electricity, can also be understood as partially genocide under that convention, right? But also when we look at people like Itamar Ben Gavir and how he talks about Palestinians and how he wants to eradicate all Palestinians, or the Minister of Justice himself saying this, multiple politicians within the current Israeli right-wing administration, which is the most a misrepresentation or a downplaying of what they have said to make it seem as if it's only one person when it isn't.
It's not only one person, but again, a government has, like many governments have ruled for many years, and the fact that he's a bumbling fool, and that's the truth about him, does not mean it represents. You're trying to say, I'll explain to you what you're trying to say. You're trying to say, oh, because Ben Gvir said that, that proves that actually the Israelis are these horrible monsters that want to unalive the Palestinians. Because that's what you're trying to say in nicer words, with candy wrapping, sugarcoating it. When the truth is, no, most people on both sides are peace-seeking people. That is the first thing we need to agree upon in order to even continue this discussion. Like, because what you're trying to say is, no, we, and the government blatantly says that it wants the eradication of
do you think
people, which is false.
So again, you just mischaracterized my statement. Not once did I talk about the Israeli. Once did I talk about the Israeli people. I talked specifically about the Israeli government, which is in charge of what it's doing in Gaza. I did not once bring up the Israeli people, and I think it's very important to separate the Israeli people from the actions of the Israeli government. The same way I feel like the Israeli government is failing to do so when it's collectively punishing all of Palestinians for what Hamas has done, when Hamas isn't even the government. And I think criticizing the Israeli government for what they have come out and said is not me demonizing Israeli people as a whole. These are facts that they said this.
I'm happy that you said that, and that we agree that the intentions of the people are not Gino. I'm not sure if you can say genocide or not, so just being careful. And what was the other thing you wanted to say? Sorry.
I simply wanted to say that the Israeli government itself is mass unaliving and committing many war crimes in Gaza, whether it is the forceful displacement of over 1 million people and giving them only 24 hours to leave the premises. That is also a war crime. It's a human rights violation, but also anything collective punishment is also a war crime, because you're punishing people in Gaza for the actions of Hamas, and at the same time using white phosphorus is also a war crime.
Okay, so the UN has not sanctioned Israel about the cutting of power. Let's be very accurate about this, because it's important to note that the one that is funding and giving out the water and electricity, and you might say, oh, thank you very much for doing that. But yeah, free the hostages, and you'll get that. Now, addressing that if it's a war crime or not. So no, if you look at the current paper, you're much more knowledgeable about this than me. Can you show me where is it accused as a war crime in this specific conditions first? And the second thing is that you're saying collective punishment. Well, is firing rockets aimlessly trying to hit civilians not a form of collective punishment? So I'm not saying two wrongs.
Wait, yes, Hamas committed war crimes as well. We condemn them.
Okay.
You want us to do the to be the Schrödinger's cat to be here or not here?
So you're not, but you're not though. In fact, you did do a thing, and then I can do analysis on the thing that you did. I don't think that the pullout of the Sinai Peninsula was for that reason.
That's what I wanted to respond
right?
to you
Like
we
could talk actually about what you did, right? And then what happened. Also, could you address what Athena said?
Whatever Israel had two choices to do, either do this or that. So what you say, you say every time I hear that it does not matter what Israel will do. If she pulls out of Gaza or if she doesn't pull out of Gaza, it's wrong.
Do you want to say your point again?
Wrong.
I'll give you a third chance to say your point. Do you want to reiterate it?
If
you're going to repeat, do it a fourth time. Please repeat your point for the fifth time. This is really annoying. You've already said that. I heard you.
No, but I'm just
But the thing is, I heard you and I responded to you. You already said that.
Yeah,
and I heard you and I responded to you. So how this works is then you respond to my response. Isn't that crazy how that works? Do you want me to reiterate? Do you want to reiterate my? Do you want me to reiterate my response? Is that what you need? Did you hear my response? Did you care about my response? Did you listen to my response? What happened? Did it not enter?
I cannot understand. Your logic is like beyond me. I'm sorry.
Great.
Like,
my logic is your critique of me is nonsense. That's my logic. The critique of me that I would criticize Israel for doing this or this is nonsense because you don't know that. Israel did do one thing and I critiqued them for that one thing. Israel, in fact, didn't do this other thing, so I'm not going to critique them for doing the thing they didn't do. Okay?
But
I'm going to critique them for things that are critiquable, and then if you disagree with my critique, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But when I believe that they're doing a thing for a given reason, right, I'm going to try and provide reasons for it, and I need you to engage with those reasons, right, rather than engaging in made-up hypotheticals that don't actually logically follow. I think their pullout of Gaza and then the subsequent blockade, as Athena eloquently was ignored about, right? That is a goal to take an impoverished peoples away from an institution. First it was the PLO, then it was the Israeli occupation, right? You take all the institutions out, impoverish people, make them even more impoverished, right? We know what's going to happen there. Everyone knows what's going to happen there. We all do. They're not stupid. Right? If any, even like a mildly educated person in the world can look at this and say, wow, look, that is a festering ground for terrorism. We know it's going to happen. They know it's going to happen. So that it can't not be part of their strategy to have terrorism pop up there. It can't not. So they knew it was going to happen.
I respond to the woman here and to you also. I tell you what, any other educated people can. I'm not talking about. I'm talking also to the listener. There are probably some listeners here that can understand what I'm saying. So after we gave most of the control to Gaza and said, let's start a process to build a trust process. It's a trust process. That's how we start. And we gave them a choice to choose, to elect. And 2 years after that, we got rockets firing on us. Now, I want to explain you talk about genocide, etc. I want to explain something you cannot also deny. When you fire rockets randomly, and I say randomly, on a populated area, that's a war crime. That's unmoral, first of all. I don't need to read if it's a war crime. I don't need to Google if it's a war crime.
No, we've already been over this.
No,
Can you address what I said respectfully?
Yeah, I'll address your question. So I'm going to come. The next sentence is addressing you. I'm addressing you. Okay. So when you fired rockets at us, so what do you respect, we don't retaliate. So we did these operations. Now these operations, we did a few operations since 1907. A few operations in Gaza. And I know this because I live here. I see the politics. I see the news every day. We have been debating every time. We said, the Gaza are firing rockets on our cities, and we didn't respond to this a lot of times. We didn't respond. They fired like every day on the southern areas, and Israel did not respond for many months till they said we have enough and we've made an operation. In these operations, we bombed from the area. We never got into Gaza on foot because we never wanted to conquer as Gaza. If we had wanted to do that, we could have done this like for the last 17 years. It should be logic to anyone. Be reasonable. Israel has been into Gaza from the air so many times. If we really wanted to get inside, now this is different. Now the situation like crossed the line and we might get in. I admit, now we might get inside Gaza. But if we wanted to do it, we had so many operations there. We could have done it. And I must tell you, some of the people in our government said, let's do it because we cannot control the terror. Let's do it. But many people said, no, we don't want it to be in Gaza. We don't want this. And you're right. It's from a strategical, sorry for my English. I'm tired of it. It is strategic. Every country.
He's not going to
so, and about the human rights, about human rights, he said. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You just
ignore
what Athena said.
Yeah, you just ignore what I said because you tried to imply that Israel doesn't have full control over Gaza and Israel gave over Gaza to Palestinians, when in fact all the reasons I stated goes to show that Israel does still have control over Gaza and indirectly occupies it, even though there isn't a direct military presence within Gaza.
I wanted to address it. So wait, the control we have on Gaza is actually, you're right. Gaza is not totally free, and it is under Israel control. In the way, yes, we do have borders, okay, and God forbid if these borders were not have been there, we have seen, and I'm not going to repeat it because the host is gonna be angry at me, but I'm going to say just one more time quickly. We have seen so many terror attacks inside Israel because we let Palestinians move from Gaza to Israel. So there are many innocent Palestinians that come to work here, and we give them to work, but inside of these innocent Palestinians, there is some percentage that is not innocent and is coming here to do terror attacks. And when they do that, they ruin it for everybody. They ruin it for their own people, and they ruin it for us. And
so you're collectively punishing all Palestinians for the actions of some, which again, collective punishment is literally a war crime under the Geneva Convention. But you keep bringing up how you keep bringing up
is a war crime. Sorry, I mean I mean it's both sided.
But
it's both sided.
No, but you keep bringing up how Palestinians have been attacking Israelis since the 90s, and like we can bring up multiple other massacres, like the Tantura massacre, where Israelis did unalive seaside Palestinian villager. 1 second, we can bring up the Tantura massacre, where Israelis did unalive seaside Palestinian villagers, and they built resorts over the mass graves of people from Tantura, and they built 2 holiday beach resorts after they unalived and massacred people, and they built their parking lots over the mass graves. We can give you multiple other incidents since 1948 of the Israeli state and the IDF actively mass unaliving Palestinian people. Yet you brought up how Palestinian people might have been retaliating since the 1990s, and I can give you multiple examples since 1948. What about that young Bedouin girl who was unalived and raped by 20 IDF soldiers and buried in the Negev desert as well? I can give you multiple massacres on the Palestinian side.
I can give you exactly. So we're not going to get into this because I'm gonna read everything. A Palestinian person coming into a disco club just bomb himself, and 17 years old 17 girls, teenager girls were killed. Why? What is the reason of that? So every horror you tell me, I can tell you a different horror story that I've seen here. So let's not get into that.
You're deflecting. You kept
I know
saying.
everything you're saying. Sorry?
No, you're deflecting because you kept pretending, right, as if this conflict or these issues
And I
exist.
say you are deflecting. Come on.
No, you kept pretending as if this exists unprovoked. Retaliation means the Israeli state is just living peacefully, not doing anything, and it just gets attacked unprovoked. When that is not the case, the attacks you mentioned were attacks since the 1990s. I can give you multiple attacks on Palestinian people since 1948. So these
What do you
attacks
call
didn't happen in a
provocation?
vacuum, is what I'm saying.
So the question is, sometimes you have to put some standards, you know. So what does it mean, provocation? If Israeli, like when you say in the West Bank, you're saying, I don't know the numbers, you say 52, I don't know, were killed or something.
75 people.
I know the story. What I do know, because I've been hearing also lies, and this I do know that I don't know if it was a month ago, I don't know, 2 months ago, we have a big operation in the West Bank, and we found tons of weapons. There are tons of weapons, and these weapons were not like to fire in weddings, you know. It were not to fire at weddings. It was when the doomsday comes, it will be fired on Jewish people. So we did not try to kill anyone. We took these weapons, and I'm sure if some person there tried to shoot on an Israeli soldier, he got arrested or got hurt. That's for sure.
That's not true.
That's
The
a provocation.
West Bank operations that unalived 75 people started after Hamas. The whole Hamas incident happened in Israel, so October the 7th, and Israeli forces even entered different refugee camps and even unalived the 16-year-old when they unalived the 75 people. I'm not talking about previous West Bank operations. I'm talking about current West Bank operations.
75 people were killed. Just tell me facts. 75 West Bank people were killed
since October 7. Yes.
I can do you have a list of the names? I want to because it's no way there's such a number. I want a list of I don't know 50 names, 50 not 75, 50 names. You must have the name. Not now, please. Like provide some way, like. You know, because this not happen. Because these numbers I know. So, you know, some girl told me like in another live, this live, she said, "You killed in this war now. You killed millions. Seriously, girl, millions. When you say millions, you know, you spread lies. This is spreading a lie.
I never said millions at all. I never said millions. Can you have this conversation with me and Will, though? Because we're not other people in other lives. Can you address what I am saying? No. Can you address what I am saying?
Your facts are from other lives. Where did you hear these facts? You heard them like in the Palestinian live, probably. Because
I heard them from news reports. I heard them from news reports, right? When we look at...
Okay, just tell me which site to Google, like CNN, BBC. Just tell me,
BBC.
I'm writing.
So the BBC...
So tell me what to write in Google.
The BBC.
What to write. Yes.
BBC.
I'm writing West Bank, BBC, and what to write? Tell me.
75 Palestinians.
Okay, 75 Palestinians.
You have the Jordan Times wrote about it. You have Al Jazeera wrote about it.
I'm going to see. Wait, let's see. Maybe all right.
Maybe Rolling Stones wrote about it.
Maybe all right. Let's see. It was an image for. I can see some headline in the BBC. You're right. I can see something. It was like yesterday. Like it says 70 hours ago. Wait.
So it says here. It says here as well. At least 75 Palestinians have been unalived by Israeli troops or settlers in the West Bank since the Gaza war erupted on October 7. According to ministry figures, the people who were unalived in the Nur al-Shams refugee camp in the town of Tulkarem. There is Palestinian Red
Wait,
Crescent.
but are you talking? What are you talking? This is like the number 75 is not like this week. It's like from 9:05. You're talking like in the last 20.
No.
No.
It says here at least 75 Palestinians have been unalived by Israeli troops or settlers in the West Bank, Gaza, since the Gaza war erupted on October 7. Let me turn on my
Yeah,
screen.
because I'm reading like, can you give me like 1 minute? I'm reading the BBC. I'm with you. Like according to the new and this week, the week of the from the deadliest Palestinian workers since it began reporting fatalities in them with at least I can see it. You know something? I can see this, and I had no knowledge about that. I must say I had no knowledge about this. I think it happened. Wait, but I have to check it
5
out
minutes.
also from
I'll be
the
back.
outside. But
Keep saying.
but I didn't know about.
Yeah, but also some of the data with regards to this was recorded and compiled by the B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights organization called B'Tselem.
Yeah, we have human rights organizations. Yes, we have many of them. Of
And
such these.
B'Tselem actively also compiles a lot of data about these incidents, and it did say that B'Tselem, over the first 6 days after the Hamas attack, it recorded 46 separate incidents where settlers in the West Bank either threatened, physically attacked, or damaged the property of Palestinians in the West Bank. So this information also partially comes from B'Tselem. That's where BBC is getting it from.
Just a second, I was reading it in one person. Right, I have to read it. I have to read some of these raids are because of raids on the other side and riots on the other side. This I know for sure. This event I didn't know about.
So specifically in the West Bank, it's not only the Israeli military, but also settlers, like the settlers within the West Bank who have caused this damage.
I will tell you something. I will say one point we agree, and I know many of many of the Israeli supporters in the comments might not agree with me, but settlers for me are a minority that are extremists. They do things that does not represent, at least me. As they don't represent many of us, I won't say like I condemn them because I haven't seen like the massacre. But yes, I don't. For me, if the problem, the Israeli-Palestinian problem, would be solved by giving you a few settlements, and that's all. So let's solve this all. You know, let's make peace and get Gaza, West Bank, and a few settlements. And maybe people will be angry about me here, but I don't care. But I'm not sure that's the whole problem. But yeah, I can agree about specifically the settlements, but don't make it. The settlements the settlers are like a very small percent of Israel. You must understand. I mean, look at the map. Look at the settlers.
Yes,
I mean,
but you have to understand, when Will and I are discussing this issue, we are separating the Israeli government from the Israelis, right? That's why we also condemn what Hamas did to the Israel, because they're punishing the Israeli citizens for the actions of the Israeli government. When we are criticizing
I tell you how we see it and what I will tell you how we see it, because from our point of view, and maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but many Israelis, what we do see is that even if there is a Hamas and Palestinians and many of them are innocent, we see that there's a majority of Palestinians that really supports Hamas and what it does. We see them celebrating. So unlike in Israel, like I don't see it's a really small group of Palestinians in a sense. That's how we see it, you know. Again, I might be wrong. I'm telling you how we are from our side. You know how it's seen from our side.
Yes, but I'm saying is when we look at how Palestinians, first of all, half of the Gazan population didn't even vote for Hamas in 2005 or 6, right? I forgot when the elections were, either 2005 or 6. Half of the population today, it's like most of them weren't even alive then, and if they were alive, they weren't even able to vote for Hamas. And when people are living in an environment where they're having their life sucked out of them, where they don't have economic opportunities, where they're living under poverty, where they're living with their cousins and their brothers and their sisters and their uncles getting unalived senselessly, and they consistently are being treated like animals in that environment, they will try to gravitate towards any community or any organization that will fight for them, even though Hamas might not actively fight for them because it's also suppressing votes. But if they're desperate people will do desperate things. So I'm not surprised if a lot of some Palestinian people might support Hamas because they're desperate.
Yeah, I do think like it's really you have to put measures, because I don't agree with you that Israel do inhumane things like in daily basis. I mean, I know there are events like in any country, like if, I'm sorry to say it, if a black woman like kills someone, you don't say all black women are like murderers or something like that. So there is not Israeli soldiers, and I've been and I know we are not evil people. None wants to like go and I don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, let me kill a 4-year-old Palestinian girl. Never. It will never happen.
But that's why I'm saying I'm separating the Israeli government and IDF from the Israeli citizens. I'm not saying Israeli citizens do this.
But also the IDF
I'm saying that
the IDF don't do you think the IDF, like I was in the IDF and I never got an order that said like hurt all civilians. But I must tell you, when I grew up, I saw in the Hamas TV, right? We saw the Hamas was given. I have this on my profile or my other profile. I don't know. You can just clearly see that 4 or 6-year-old Palestinian kids. You can clearly see it. It's in my profile. If someone did not report it, Palestinian kids say, "I'm gonna kill all the Jews when I grow up. I'm gonna stab all the Jews." And this kid is like 6-year-old. He say, "If I have a car, I'm gonna run it over Jewish people."
What environment are those kids growing up in when they are born into an environment of constant war? If those kids, you understand, hold on, you understand, wait, hold on. You understand what Israel is doing is making the kids more susceptible to radicalization, which means you're making Hamas's job easier for them. Because if those kids are growing up in an environment where they are being called the children of darkness by the Israeli government, right? When I think it was the prime minister who called it a war between the children of the light and the children of darkness. When you have the minister justice saying that they're animals, human animals.
So
they're growing up in an environment. They're growing up in an environment. They're growing up in an environment where they're being called animals, where they're being treated like animals, where they don't understand why bombings are happening. They don't understand why they're sitting there playing, and all of a sudden,
like animals. You have to like
they're being treated like animals when you have over 6,000 bombs being dropped on the Gaza Strip since October.
You're talking now at a war. I don't want to again. They also asked me not to
whether it is now. 1 second. Whether it is now or not, these children are growing up in an environment where they're being treated like animals, and when they're being treated like animals, they're going to not like and hate whoever is responsible for this. So Israeli occupation is making the radicalization process easier for Hamas.
So I'm going to tell you two things, because to straight effect, to even the facts. I'm living there. Israel is a bigger country than Gaza, so I live in the middle of Israel. But all the people living in the south of Israel, near Gaza, all the kids that grew there, I'm telling you, this is a fact, and it's a horrifying fact. They've been growing up to live with rockets on their head all day. Like Hamas fires for the last 15 years. Every week, tons of rockets on our cities on the south. It's because it's on the south, you don't hear it because it's not on all the country. So all the Israeli children that are going there, there are children there, like 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old, then they tell me, all our lives we have been living, growing up, going to the shelter all our lives. Like every hour there is like an alarm to go to the shelter. So it's the same here. And about the hate, so I can tell you something. In our government and society, we have much debates about this. Some people said You're right. You're right. We should ease the leash on Hamas and the authority, and maybe if they give them more wealth, to the people of Gaza, they will hate us more. And this is a real debate in Israel. We really try to debate here like I debate with you, and we are debating this like maybe we can help to reduce the hate from the Gaza people to us. What is our part in this, right? So we are debating this, but you cannot take the responsibility when in your school text, the Palestinian school text, you teach to kill Israelis. You cannot take the responsibility from you. If you, I mean, you say you're reflecting, but my kind woman, if you teach someone to kill, you have to take some responsibility for this.
But I understand
You
what
can
you're
blame
saying.
the circumstances, but it's part of this.
No,
I mean,
but I understand what you're saying. But again, first of all, right? Like nobody negates the fact that rocket attacks do create more fear and disrupt daily lives, right? They do have a psychological impact on your average Israeli child as well. But they also generally cause fewer casualties because of how unguided they are, right? They're unguided. They don't have precise targeting capabilities. They also have limited payload, right? And range compared to
I'll tell you
advanced
something about the
military.
unguided
Can I please finish? They have, like, when you cannot
sorry.
compare. You cannot compare the rockets that Hamas sends to the advanced technology of the Israeli military, because it has access to not only advanced technology, it has access to precision guided munitions. It is a well-organized military, right? It has greater firepower, and that greater firepower involves airstrikes, artillery shelling, ground offensives, which can result in more extensive damage and casualties, like infrastructure damage, like displacement as well. And that is in no way comparable to some of the dingy rockets that Hamas builds. And when I'm saying this, I'm in no way justifying what Hamas is doing. I'm just saying, let's not pretend like both the Hamas and the Israeli military are on equal footing, when we know that the Israeli military is much more advanced and can cause more damage.
So I want to tell you on this point something that for my view you're wrong, because I'll tell you something. These unguided missiles that Hamas fires, he fires like rockets, and they don't have a guided system. So what they do, they just fire them randomly, and some of them over the years have been landed into kindergarten. So no kids were hurt, only because the kindergarten was not opened at this time. But had it been opened, you would have seen on your news such horrors, So when you say it's unguided missile, and I want to tell you another thing. If this unguided missile will fall on your head, you will not be say, okay, thank you, it's just an unguided missile. If it falls on your head, it's going to kill you, right? It does not matter if it's this rocket or rocket. Please, don't try to take the morality of, and I'll tell you something more, less think about this. In Israel, some people as a thought, as a funny thought, right? We have a funny idea. We said, how can we retaliate to Hamas in its own ways? Okay, do you hear me?
Yes,
I don't know your name. Okay, so Kimberly. Yeah. So we said Hamas says that we are inhuman. So let's play with his own game. Let's build the same rockets that Hamas have, and let's try to fire the same unguided rockets into Gaza. So the world will say Israel is not acting unproportionately. We'll act just the same. We just guided these unguided rockets into Gaza. If some of them will hurt children, if some will hurt churches, we cannot control this because they're unguided. So that's what we could have done.
Does Israel?
We played with this idea like. Yeah, sorry. That's it. I finished.
Does Israel have the Iron Dome?
I can tell you about the Iron Dome again. The Iron Dome.
No,
okay.
I know.
So
I know
first
the
of
Iron
all,
Dome. I'm just asking you: does Israel have the Iron Dome?
No. I know. We don't want an explanation about it, but I will tell you something. The fact that we have an Iron Dome.
But does Gaza have an Iron Dome? Does Gaza have any highly sophisticated
So do you
missile
want?
defense system that
Do you want?
protects it from Israeli military operations. Does
Again, the
Gaza
fact
have?
that we have an Iron Dome does not give someone the Gaza doesn't have, but the fact that someone has,
Okay.
and I want just to say a fact here, just a fact, so to correct something, the Iron Dome does not protect 100% against missiles, and there has been like 5% of the missiles are not being targeted by the Iron Dome and are falling on people's houses, and many people have been killed, like 5%. So if the Hamas fires 1,000 rockets a day, and it does fires 1,000 rockets a day, so think how much rockets falls here and on
Nobody's
people.
denying
So
that at all.
it's not an excuse. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's not an excuse. I never said it's an
Yeah.
excuse, but
So
you just said 5%. 5% of the rockets fall on Israel, but 100% of Israel's military operations fall on Gaza. That's the difference. Gaza does not have any protection like military defense system. It doesn't have an actual real military as well. So all the actions, all the active attacks that the Israeli military does, 100% of them fall on Gaza, but 5% of them fall on Israel. This is not an excuse. I'm not saying just because Israel has the Iron Dome, Hamas needs to attack it. What I'm saying is we need to recognize and acknowledge that both areas are not on equal footing. They're not on equal footing.
Right.
Israel is much more technologically advanced, is able to protect itself. Gazans are not able to protect themselves, and they don't even have the necessary technological advancement to even do as much damage as the Israeli military is doing. So there is a power dynamic, and it's disproportionate.
And even though with this power dynamic, we didn't use it to attack anyone. The one that attacked us, it was Hamas people attacked us last week, and we responded. We didn't, with all this power, we didn't try to open a war on you. We didn't try to do anything. I'm going to finish with this. I'm sorry. I won't take anyone else's time, and I need to go. And thank you for the respectable conversation with you, at least. And the host, I can see him here. I don't know if he's here. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
he can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Thank you. Oh, I can see him now. Okay. Thank you for letting me the stage. All right. Goodbye to all.
Bye.
Peace.
It's a disaster.
That seems tiring. Yeah, I just had to clock out. Anyway, I do think I am going to probably end the live.
Yeah.
So I might come on later tonight, but we'll see. But I appreciate you coming up and rapping. Athena. Very, very good. Very fun.
Bye.
All right, peace. Bye. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Well, I appreciate everyone who showed up. I appreciate everyone who slayed up. Yeah. Let's think. I might come on later tonight. It is only like 7 where I am. So obviously right now is not the best for lives. But I might come on later. So yeah. Do follow me. YouTube. Follow my YouTube. The second I get off, please go to my profile. Or just now. I don't really care. Please go to my profile, click on the link, follow my YouTube. I'm trying to do more and more work on YouTube. But we'll see. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who sent gifts as well. I really appreciate that. Helped boost the live mainly. So yeah. All right. Much love. Bye.